And we are recording. Um, hey guys,
Stop.
here we
Jeez.
go. All right, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Nightmare Road. This episode is brought to you by the Silver Witch. So if you guys want to get some amazing spells, anything from cleansing your house to make sure Danny DeVito never visits, guys, head on over to thesilverwitch.com and check out that store, get some good stuff. It's all high quality stuff. Also, I'm just going to do the intro now. So, welcome to another episode of Nightmare Road. I, of course. Oh, geez, I didn't even do the thing. Your place for magic,
Oh,
murder, and mayhem.
there you go.
Oh, there you go. See, I almost forgot. Anyways, I'm your host, Decon, here with a very, very disturbing
Jeez.
horror slasher. Laura Slasher.
Disturbing. Jeez.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
don't know.
It's,
But anyway, so today's episode is actually pretty depressing. Um,
I
damn,
mean,
this is about the.
not that the other two have been, happy or anything, but
Well, I mean,
it's different.
who cares? It's different. It's a
Yeah.
different episode. It's still depressing though. We're talking about the shooting that happened in Pocatello, where a young man was gunned down in his front yard. So
Yard. That can make a difference.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's dark stuff. So
Yeah.
you've been doing a lot of research on this, um, on what happened. I don't want to use the person's last name, but we can use his first name.
hmm
Mm. His name was Victor, right?
Victor, yeah.
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 So Victor, what can you tell me about him?
He's 17. That's one of the most important things, I think, is like he's a minor. Um, he's autistic and he has cerebral palsy.
Jeez.
Yeah, along with like other intellectual things.
Yeah, and when you look at pictures, see so many issues um going on there, but in some of the pictures I've seen, he looks pretty happy.
hmm
Like
There's
seems
videos
like
of him like with his family. Like I saw a video. His mom is like recording him eating or something, and they're just like having a good
that's
time.
so fucking depressing. Like it's so sad. There's a video
Yeah.
out there or like a picture of him like writing his letter, like writing his name, and
hmm
it's like, damn, it's just one of those things that is so dark, because you kind of see him and then you kind of get a small glimpse into his life,
Yeah.
and it's
The
just
kid.
yeah, that's what sucks is that he's a kid and he had these issues and damn. So how did this debacle? Yeah, I'm using that word, everybody. Yeah, what does this debacle happen?
So
Hubbub,
what?
the hubbub.
Oh. So somebody called in. So it was like a domestic disturbance report, I guess, and I listened to the 911 call, and basically they're just saying like there's a man on the floor, he has a knife, and like he looks pretty drunk, like he looks like he's okay. So one of the things that they said, like I think I heard them say like he's starting to calm down or something like that, and uh, that bothers me because that like if that was happening, had they waited a little bit longer than a couple seconds, like okay, whatever. So they called, they said it's just, we'll get into it later. So they said this is happening, he has a knife, blah blah blah, like it looks like they can't, I guess, deal with it, can you send somebody? So they send the police get there, within 12 seconds he's on the ground. with 9 bullets in him.
Yeah, and damn, and the video's out there. I mean,
Mhm.
geez, it's so. I've seen a couple versions of the video.
Yeah.
Now a lot of them are censored. You get to see, but I've seen the uncensored one, and it's just
Mhm.
so brutal. A lot of that. Oh, geez, not even a lot of that. All of that was a lack of training
Mhm.
um, by the officers, and you know, it just shows how because you put on a badge doesn't mean that you're the guy for the job, you know. And also the failure of it is also the department. I mean, because a couple of things that went wrong there. Number one is when you arrive in a situation, your first instinct should be de-escalation. Um, you should take. I'm not mean. It's not even you should. It's required um, when you're a police officer. And if your academy doesn't, um, if it doesn't take that thing serious, that aspect of it, or blow it off like this is not important, then you guys shouldn't be in business. I mean,
Mhm.
it's because that's like the most important thing is de-escalation. Um,
That
because
was
you want
one
to,
of sorry, that was one of the complaints that his aunt had is she said that they got there, they didn't ask what the problem was, they didn't ask what was happening. She said that they kind of just like brushed past like other family members that were there and went and started, pointing guns. I read somebody comment like these cops like lined up like a firing squad. I'm like, they did. They were all just, like it's
yeah, no, it's insane. It's See, and it might be exaggerating maybe a little bit, but it seems like it was 12 seconds from the vehicle to got that, and they got there, guns already drawn. The moment that their feet hit the ground, the guns were drawn, arrived up to the fence, and then unloaded.
yeah.
Um, what I saw in the video was, and this is again another aspect of training, is you know training under pressure, training under a high stress situation. And it seems like they didn't have that. And it's a lot of people are like, well, were they rookies? Some of those police officers have been there for a while. It just seems like it's just one of those things where they're in a small town. Well, it's not really that small, but by compared to other departments, it's a small area, probably with not a lot of crime. So a lot of these people have managed to just skim by writing tickets, doing all these things, and never been in an actual stressful situation. I mean, one of the that's the important thing of simunitions training. In places like New Jersey, they have the Gun for Hire Academy, and back in my day, back in my we kind of aided with the high stress situations, and it was simunitions. They put you in an environment where it could be any scenario. They put you in a place that looked like a small coffee shop, and the firearms that you have are actual paintballs. But they has a CO2 cartridge that also mimics recoil, and they'll leave you in there for up to 40 minutes. You know, just because you don't want the guy to be waiting, just like,
Mhm.
okay, any minute now. They'll make you comfortable.
Yeah.
So in one of the situations was the coffee shop where they're like, hey, the instructor's going to be late. He's on his way, but it might be an hour. So let's just kind of wait for him and just sit here. And it's like, yeah, just tell me about blah, blah, blah. And you begin a conversation. 3 minutes later, somebody kicks the door in or runs in, and you're mid conversation, and they see how you handle stress,
Mhm.
how you handle that type of reaction. And you'd be surprised. There was a situation where we were mimicking a bedroom. Like it's a bedroom situation, or like, how's your bedroom set up? Because this person was like an Olympic, shooter, right?
Mhm.
Target shooter. And it's like, well, what is your bedroom set up like? And he's like, it's like this, and like this. So it's like, all right. So they get the bedroom set up the way that it was supposed to. And they had the guy laying down. What they didn't tell him was that they were going to play like certain music so that he basically falls asleep. They left him in there for like 40 minutes. And they're playing these sounds. He finally falls asleep. And then someone kicks the door in and starts screaming things. And this person that was a championship shooter grabs the firearm and throws it at him. You know, like the reaction was not, you know, like all right, you know, like throws it at him. And these kind of, it just panic. So these kind of situations is very important. This type of training is very important in departments. And this is just an excellent example of a failure of that type of, because what you see was this individual had a knife and he was on the ground. A couple of things wrong with this. Number one was that he didn't have a firearm. He had a bladed weapon, right? But there was what they call a barrier. There was a barrier between the suspect and the officers.
Yep.
So there wasn't direct access to them. So anything that's in the way, it could be a fence, it could be a small wall, it could be a picket fence, any obstacle that the individual has to climb over or overcome, or they can't reach you, you know, is not considered, you know, grounds. That's where your commands come in. And there's where it's an excellent opportunity to utilize something non-lethal like a taser or pepper spray or mace, long distance, just something, right? Even beanbags.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking why it was that they couldn't use a taser or they didn't think to use one, like why they came in right away with their guns out.
A lot of that was a lack of training. So they went in panicking. There's somebody with a knife. Instead of assessing the situation, also the number one thing is when you're drawing your firearm and you're aiming it at a suspect, you shout commands, right? And you back up. Your reaction should be to back up because you want to put distance between you and the suspect so the suspect can't come at you or has to take extra steps or can't reach out and grab you. These officers stayed stationary.
Yeah.
The individual was having a hard time getting up because of disability. And I think one of the officers panicked when he stepped forward and then started shooting. And then the reaction was just high stress. Guy unloaded, everybody else just immediately started shooting too. One of the guys had a shotgun, and that's what's insane to me.
Yep.
He had a shotgun, and the crazy thing, and another part of the fail, and it sounds awful when I say things like this because this is where marksmanship comes into practice. You have how many officers do you remember? Were they 6?
5 or 6 that were in front of him with their guns out?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
5 or 6. They unload on this individual. One of them, you see him as he's shooting, and he shoots until his gun's dry. The Beretta 9mm, right?
How many does that hold?
So the standard issue holds 10 rounds.
Thanks.
So when you look at something like that, and oh, by the way, 1 in the chamber, so 11. So when you look at something like that, somebody shot that many times. I don't know if they all ran dry. I saw the guy with the shotgun shoot and racked in a pump, bang, bang, you know. So yeah, hit him 9 times. You see dirt kicking up behind him. He hit the ground because obviously the rounds hit him, and they still didn't stop. You still see dirt being kicked up around him. So again, how can you shoot that many times and only hit an individual 9 times? Again, the lack of training. At that point, the officer becomes a huge threat because remember, there was a house behind him. Now these individuals are shooting rounds into a house.
Well, not
They're
only
not hitting
that,
the target.
his family was right behind him.
Exactly. So this is what I'm getting at. So
Okay.
there's a house behind him.
Mhm.
Even if they miss the house, there's other houses next to him, and now there's people surrounding him. And another thing is you have to be aware of what you're shooting at, because ricochets. There's a
Mhm.
crowd of people. Instead of de-escalating the situation, telling people, "Hey, you're not making the situation better. Everybody stay back." You know, Now they're just unloading. It could hit anything. Ricochet hits the crowd. They could have shot each other with a ricochet. They could have. It was disgusting. I saw,
Mhm.
and I'm pro police. I back the blue. You know, in this situation, I look at this and I'm like, these people should be prosecuted. I have best friends that were detectives for Ogden City. I know their kids, that are sheriffs in Utah, in Ogden, Utah. Um, and asking my friend, I'm just gonna say, his art, um, I was like, all right, look at this. What do you think? And he was like, fuck. He's like, this is a huge fuck up. You know, he says there could be children in the house, there could be kids on the other, like this. He says they fucked up, and he says this is what gives police officers a bad name. Is
Mhm.
stuff like this, and he says that the issue is no one expects their small city or their small town to deal with it, so they become very lenient when
Mhm.
it comes to recruiting officers. Shit, you have academy, and I'm gonna say it. I mean, like places like Blackfoot, Idaho, their physical requirements are garbage. When you look at what needs to qualify to become a police officer, it's shit. It's like this is what's necessary.
Yeah,
You
not
know,
good.
it's so minimal with a lot of things. Um, Even Pocatello. I mean, gee, and again, I may catch a lot of heat for this, but you see officers that are physically and mentally out of shape. You see, what do I mean by physically? Well, they're walking around, they're obese, they can't chase somebody down, they can't climb something. If somebody needs help and it's over, they can't get to them because of the training is so lacking. They just don't care. You know, Also the mental. Um, Damn, it just sucks.
Yeah.
You see their behavior. Uh, the behavior is a lot of individuals that you know there is no. They lead with their ego. A lot of them lead with their ego. I'm in charge here. I'm doing this. I'm doing that because their ego is so fragile
Mhm.
that when you bring up the first thing like physical training, they get offended. I've been an officer for 30 fucking years, and you're not gonna tell me. It's like you're out of shape. But why? Also because the mental aspect of it is out of shape. You know, and then that's how you get these individuals that don't take the training serious, or I grew up on a farm and I grew up shooting, so I don't need this. You get the laziness in the department, which
Yeah.
it's like, well, are we really going to pay for a program? Are we really going to spend this time? Do we really have the budget? Like, no, but would you sign up? You have a driver's license? Are you a felon? No, well, welcome to the force. And then that's how you get these accidents.
Mhm.
Um, and this is the issue that I see is that it is a big fuck up, but this is one of those things where these kind of things cost lives. Um,
Um, so earlier today, I read a post that this kid was um he's brain dead,
yeah,
clinically brain dead, and they are choosing to take him off life support tomorrow.
yeah, jeez.
Yep. So it did cost a life,
Yeah, and
a kid's life.
yeah, a kid's life, and that's what's rough
Yeah.
is the fact that this is where negligence gets you. It's not like, well, we can't, we haven't trained these officers, they'll be fine. Like, no, this is how people die.
Hmm.
You know, this is how your officers kill somebody. Um,
People are
and
pissed.
right,
Like they
well,
just
of course,
they got, well, obviously, it's the obvious, but they got put on administrative leave,
yeah.
and his aunt again was like saying, like he's dying, like he's in the hospital, he's dying, and they get to be at home, with their families and eating
Yeah.
breakfast and having, hanging out, having lunch, doing all this stuff, and this kid's dying.
And I don't know what those people are going through. I hope they're remorseful. Um, what I saw, and I'm going based off what I've seen, because like I said, it could be trauma based, it could be in shock. But what I saw was after the paramedics were there and they're trying to revive, you see officers just walking off like it was nothing. No one's standing by saying things like, "Hey, is he gonna be okay?" Like, no, there was no. Let me stop and see how it's. I seen a lot of those officers and they're just walking off as if they got called to basically chase a raccoon out of somebody's yard, and like, well, the raccoon's gone, and just walk off. And it just sucks because I'm gonna say this, and a lot of people out there that either have family that are police officers or they're police officers, and they hear this and they'll say something like, well, I've been doing my job for a long time. I don't need somebody to tell me, or I don't need somebody to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that type of attitude, like, for example, in the military, that kind of behavior, that's how people die. That's how you get your teammates killed. That's how you die. And when you translate that to the police force, that's how kids die.
Hmm.
And it's sad. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Um, what I hope happens is if these people are not, prosecuted, I think that they should be, fired. And I think that the academy should take training a lot more serious.
Yeah.
It's
A lot
not
of
just
people a lot of people right now are like, yeah, they're gonna get away with it 100%, because
yeah. And
they came out with like their statement, and there was no, it didn't look like he was, saddened or remorse. Like the first thing that he did was like, so we're gonna play the 911 call to show you guys, what was said. But in there, like it's like the guy says, like they're not speaking English, like,
yeah,
so they came in like, oh, put the weapon down. He's not gonna understand you.
yeah.
Also,
And that,
like they didn't ask anything. Like they didn't know he was
yes.
autistic. Like they didn't ask anything.
Yeah. And that's another thing is someone said, and it was in one of the recordings where they basically said he's nonverbal and he doesn't speak English.
Hmm.
And he was sitting on the ground. And the first thing you don't want to do is show up and then start screaming at somebody because what happens there? What are you doing? You're escalating a situation
Yeah.
when your job should be to de-escalate the situation.
Hmm.
Um, and and the way that they were behaving, their guns were drawn and they're screaming at this person, and this person, doesn't speak the language, doesn't know it's not. Um, and I don't know is meant to what degree his mental disability was, but you got to think that like maybe he didn't understand. Here's somebody's yelling, I don't know what's going on, and he stands up and he's like,
Hmm.
maybe they want me to come,
He could just be
and
confused, scared, panicked, like anything.
yeah, yeah.
Nobody
And one
knew.
of the things was that he was struck in the head.
Yeah, so the person that called in like the whole thing said that he was hit in the head with a log. I'm not sure what that's about. So the mom was saying that they were prepping for a barbecue, and when she looked over, he was walking towards her with a knife. She's like, I didn't know if he wanted to play, like if he wanted to, which knife is not, but she didn't know if he was trying to like come and help, like cut things or if he whatever.
Yeah.
She said that his sister came out with a broom to try to, I guess, like knock the knife out of his hand without getting too close. I don't know if that's what they're talking about, or if somebody actually like hit him with a log. But
Yeah.
I, I don't know.
You hear a lot of conflicting stories. Like
Mhm.
man, I saw so many.
Yeah.
One of them was that this person, there was a drunk person out there, and they saw that maybe he was, being aggressive, whatever it was. So somebody, and this is again, so many conflicting stories. The most important video and the most important story is what we saw.
Hmm.
Because it's not like you saw him already on the ground. The police were, no, you seen the arrival and then running up with the guns and then the shooting down and then the continued gunfire, which again, I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You
Like,
know, and
they
that's,
said in
and
their statement, they were like, "Oh, they shot until until he fell, and then they stopped." They did not.
no, they
They were
didn't. I mean, if
shooting.
you
He was
watch the
on the
video,
ground.
he was on the ground and you still see dirt kicking up. They were still shooting, and they, a couple of them shot until their guns ran dry. That's a response from stress, by the way. That's not having trigger control. That's
Hmm.
you shooting, and then that happens in a moment of panic.
Yeah.
In a moment of panic, you are not aware that you may intent to shoot the first time, pull the trigger, it shoots, and then your body just goes in a high stress mode and just begins to pull that trigger because it's an automated response. And and then you realize like, oh shit, like I'm out. Again, those kind of things are dangerous because that's how you get an officer in a legitimate gunfight so stressed that he's shooting and doesn't reload, doesn't take cover, and now he's a sitting duck, or he's a danger to everybody else. And that's what I saw was a group of people that were a danger not only to each other but to everybody around them. And unfortunately, somebody that didn't need to get hurt got severely injured, died, technically, because he's brain dead. Like, they killed somebody,
Yeah.
due to negligence and a lack of training. So anyway, geez, back to the story.
Yeah.
So so apparently somebody hit him in the head with a log, with a stick, and then he picks up a knife or grabs a knife, and probably out of fear.
So he already had it. I didn't know how the knife came in, but with reading that, they were prepping for the barbecue and he walked toward his mom with the knife, he already had it in his hand. I'm assuming that the hitting part was them trying to get the knife away from him and he just wouldn't let it go. Again, he has mental disabilities. It's not like you can, just
Just tell him like, hey,
maybe
put
I
it
don't know,
down.
like, how severe it is. Like if maybe he doesn't understand or he just doesn't listen. If you tell him like, hey, let that go, like he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm assuming that's where the log thing came from, but he was on the ground. He had the knife already in his hand.
Yeah. And that story that I just said about like, oh, somebody came in, they saw, like, that's probably somebody that didn't know what was going on,
Hmm.
and just
Or the
stumbled
neighbor.
upon the neighbor just walked in, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
He the one that called, like, he didn't really know what was happening. He just said they were kind of trying to get the knife away. He says now that he regrets calling the police.
Yeah, and that's what sucks,
Hmm.
is when you regret calling the police because someone's dead,
The
a minor
situation,
with.
and it's not like it's his fault. It's nobody's fault but the people that were shooting. But like, had the police never shown up, like, it could have all just been fine. Like,
Well, but here's the
but
thing, is that when you call the police, I mean, that's who you expect to handle the situation better than anybody, because they're supposed to have the training. They're supposed to, and they didn't have any of those things. And how is anybody supposed to know?
yeah.
And for those people out there that are like, well, it's easy to armchair quarterback. Have you ever been in a high stress situation? Yes. Yes. Have you ever trained? Yes. Have you ever trained police officers? Yes. You know, it's like, yeah, everything I saw from that video, from my point of view, I watched the video like 8 or 9 times. And I was trying to justify something. I'm like, show me something that, that kind of like, he reacted this way because of this. He did this and he did this. And I couldn't see anything ridiculous. Like this was a big fuck up. And
See, and
somebody's dead.
I don't know anything about, I guess like the technical side of it or what you're supposed to do or what, and I didn't see anything that, like I saw a lot that they could have done different. Literally just don't shoot. Like calm down.
Yeah, I mean, even in videos out there where you see somebody who's wielding a machete, and the police is issuing commands, and a
Hmm.
person begins to advance forward, the taser comes out, hits on the person, falls. If the person's on drugs and there's not enough juice in it, you have a secondary. That other person hits them too.
Hmm.
Only if an individual is now a threat, like directly, they're running at you, whatever it is, and you have no other option, then you can open fire on a person. But again, it's controlled. It's not shoot until your gun's dry.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, I watched this video and I'm like, this is a huge lack of training. And if you're out there and you see this and you're like, yeah, well, play stupid games, like you're an asshole.
Yeah, no, absolutely
Like
not.
like like I
That's
see that you're a piece of shit.
yeah, that's no, that's not it. This is a
And
kid. It's a kid.
yeah, and it sucks. And
There's so many
and
people
then
I've
that's just
seen that are like, oh, he doesn't look 70. It doesn't matter. Like
yeah,
he can look 50. It does not matter. Like you
yeah.
take the
There
time,
was a
like for everybody.
so the individual with a knife sitting down, has obviously issues standing up, and there's 6 of you. And your response is one of them. The guy that showed up with a shotgun was insane.
I
The amount of dirt that he kicked behind him when he shot and missed, by the way, um, shot and missed all of his rounds because the way that the dirt was kicked up, he was shooting slugs.
yeah.
If he would have connected, that kid would have been dead on the spot. And it just shows the lack of training. Again, like I said, it sounds shitty when I say this, but the lack of what happens now when there's an individual with a firearm and you count on these people to draw their fire and not do the same thing, to draw their firearm and then be able to take precise shots. Instead of unloading a fire, like how am I supposed to know that next time there's a person with a gun, they're not going to unload into a crowd of people? Like what I saw was a lack of control, lack of discipline, and it sucks. Somebody's dead.
Yep.
And that's it. That's all. I don't have anything else to say about this case. The thing is just shitty. These are the consequences of negligence.
Yeah.
Negligence, ill training. People that should have been better trained or should have never put on the uniform.
Yep.
And that's it. That's all I got to say. Sorry, this wasn't like a funnier episode or anything like that. It wasn't funny at all. It's actually kind of depressing. But it's just something that, really bothered me, and it's like, we got to do a show on this. So, yeah, it's fucking hard. So, anyway, I guess that's it. So, like and subscribe for more of this garbage. I was your host. Anything we have to plug?
I don't think so. Just Linktree and that
plugs.
Yeah,
the link. Yeah, Linktree, merch, stickers, shirts. I got new products. You have your own yeah, merch now.
I do.
Laura Slasher merch. So you guys check that out. And that's it, guys. Jeez, what a shitty episode.
I mean, it's just a lot. Like it shouldn't have happened. It sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. Anyways, guys, that's it. That's all we got. So I was Decon. This is Laura Slasher, and remember to always look both ways, especially if you find yourselves on Nightmare Road.
Or in Pocatello.
Or in Pocatello. Cheese, or in Pocatello.